Jill, I'm separated and in the middle of a divorce. My husband just got a settlement from a car wreck. Even though I wasn't in the wreck, do I have a right to any of that money? Jill, that's an interesting question, a very good question.
Yes, it is. I don't know that I know the full parameters of the answer.
We can't get it from the email, but we can kind of go through the case.
Yeah, some of the issue depends on the date of separation, because typically personal injury lawyer here, but back from the bar exam days, the marital estate is kind of determined before separation or date of filing. So there's a potential scenario there to whether or not that's a personal claim post filing or before. And then there is some scenarios in there where you might have a consortium claim,
right.
Which is if you have, if your spouse is injured in an accident, and in the extent that that injury causes damage to the relationship and requires you to do more around the house, support and services, things of that nature, then you would have a potential claim, that portion. And then if there's a lost economic portion of it, like income. Now the actual pure pain and suffering, medical bills and things like that, that's not going to be anything that you're going to have any entitlement to, because that's personal to that individual himself.
Right. But if there is a claim that's there, and if they were married at the time, at least technically,
it's something that's subject to debate and it needs to be discussed, and you need to make sure your divorce attorney knows about it and is properly vetted through all those channels and spliced out to whatever it can be, because you don't want to leave anything on the table, so to speak.
Well, you also have that, we talk about that loss of consortium claim, and years ago, it's after, or coming up on 11 o'clock, we can talk about this. So years ago, it used to be only about sex, and it used to only be that the man had the claim when his wife was injured, because going back 100 plus years now, a woman was considered to be the man's property.
Yeah, property.
Chattel. Don't do that. Don't do that to me. Don't use them fancy legal terms. So if a man's wife was injured and could not perform the marital services, let's say, then the man would have a claim for loss of consortium. Now in modern days, as we move forward, it's equal 50-50 can be. And the loss of consortium is a disruption in the marriage. And it
impacts that relationship in any way.
Right, and so you and I have a case that we're working on where at least there's that component to it, where there's very serious injury that took place, and it has very seriously disrupted the family relationship.
In all aspects.
Yes. Yeah. And so are they getting divorced? Are they talking about divorce? Are they going to counseling? Yes, they are. But also the nature and extent of it is something that'll be discussed behind closed doors. And something that will be worked out in the event that there is a separation and ultimately a divorce.
But that is something you always have to think about when you're pursuing a consortium claim in a personal injury lawsuit. But anytime you file a lawsuit, a lot of those things that we consider private and confidential are subject to discovery and open to be looked at. So that's something we always have to have frank and open discussions with our clients about, look, we're going to pursue this claim. You have to be ready to answer questions about other things that could be impacting that relationship.
And so, when you're talking about loss of consortium, has there been other infidelities that have taken place? Is your husband or wife addicted to something that's on the cell phone or the internet? And those things do come out, and they say, well, it's none of your business. Well, you're the one making that claim.
Right.
So,
the only way to make it none of the business is to drop the claim.
Drop the claim, not have the claim. But the interesting thing, how did we get on this, by the way? I know Jill asked the question. But, you've got this situation, though, sometimes where it does have a disruption of the intimate marital relationship. And in the intimacies that we talk about, we always like to try to talk about them as if you're sitting in the Sunday school class at one of the First Baptist churches. You don't want to say, get in there to positions and frequencies and durations and whips and chains and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, all those different things that may go on in your privacy of your bedroom. But there are certain circumstances where that might be important. So Jill, by the basis of your question, you need to, talk it over with a, personal injury lawyer. You also probably need to talk it over with your divorce lawyer and make sure that all of the lawyers are on the same page and making sure that you're fairly treated in this particular situation. So I hope that answers your question, Jill.